Hello and welcome to the Bikes for Death podcast. My name is Patrick and I am your host. And I'd like to start off today's episode by thanking our newest patrons. We've had a few sign up since last episode, so I'd like to give a shout out to Kevin B, Trent P, and Ryan L. I appreciate you guys stepping up to support the show and getting us closer to the goal of reaching $500 a month on Patreon. Currently, we're at $430. When we hit that magical $500 number, I'm going to create a separate podcast called Shifting Gears that's going to be just for patrons as a way to say thank you. It's going to be a little bit different than the format that I have here on Bikes for Death. The reason it's called Shifting Gears is because it can go in a lot of different directions. So ultimately, I'm probably going to let the patrons run that show and dictate, who my guests are, what the topics are, and I'm just going to kind of do whatever they want me to do because really it's about saying thank you to them. So if you're a patron, thank you. Hopefully we'll get to that number soon. And if you would like to help support the show, the easiest way to find Patreon is to head over to bikesfordeath.com. There's a link there. There's also a link to PayPal, which allows you to submit a one-time donation. And you can also check out the merchandise. We got all kinds of great goodies there that allows you to support the show, kick a few dollars our way, and also lets everybody else know that you're repping Bikes for Death, and that's what you're about. Bikes are life. It's a lifestyle. It's what we do. It's who we are. Thanks for repping the gear. I always love to see people out there with patches, stickers, shirts, whatever it is. Super cool. Thanks for spreading the stoke. And lastly, the easiest way to support the show is to simply go to iTunes and leave a 5-star review. It is super important to help the show stay current, stay topical, and let the algorithms and little robots know that people do like the show, they are listening, and other people should listen too. So that's just the way the world works. And if you can help leave a little review with 5 stars next to it, that would be ever so appreciated. All right. Well, listen, I do have an opportunity for listeners. If you have a message or if you would like to share something with the Bikes for Death audience, there's going to be some opportunities coming up for that. I'm going to talk about all of that after the show, but if you fancy yourself as somebody who would like to contribute, who has an idea or whatnot, and would like to contribute something or share something with the Bikes for Death audience, stick around because we got some opportunities. I get lots of messages from people about wanting to be a guest and who I should interview and all this stuff. But unfortunately, I'm only one person and I get a lot of requests. So it's hard to, it's impossible to accommodate everybody and to interview everybody. But there's a lot of important stories out there. So yeah, stick around after the episode if you're interested in that. But if you're not, I'm not going to waste your time with it right now. No advertisers today, no sponsors. Today's episode is brought to you by you. Y'all are the best. You're supporting the show 100% today. Always much appreciated. So without further ado, my guest today is Aaron Chamberlin. You may have heard about him recently. He just finished circumnavigating Texas via a bicycle. He wrote an article, or several articles, I should say, for Texas Monthly, who is his employer. So for these couple months that he was out there, he somehow talked his employer into paying him to go ride his bike around the circumference of Texas and write an article about it, which is obviously very cool on a lot of levels. It's always so cool whenever I see people who are able to merge their passions with their jobs and make something really cool and special happen like this. I think the creativity and the entrepreneurship to go and seek something out like this and to bend the ear of his employer. And we talk about it, so I won't get too much into it, but I always have respect when people are able to do that. And then also just becoming probably the first person to ever circumnavigate the state of Texas on a bicycle. We talk about the maybe and the asterisk mark on this episode as well. It was truly an amazing feat. In 2019, he rode every street in his home city of Austin, Texas, which was 4,000 something miles, something insane like that. After that, he went bigger. So he did the whole freaking state of Texas, which is pretty great. Anyway, I had a great chat with him. We found a quiet park in Austin, beautiful weather, and we had a great conversation. So without further ado, let's have Miles Arbor take it away with the Bikes or Death theme song.
You load up your bike, you ride away from home. You could be with your friends or you could be alone. You ride for a day or maybe more. You just love being in the great outdoors. Everything you need is strapped to your bars, including that new pillow you got from Santa Claus. And then you think, oh shit, to yourself. You left that super lightweight tent on the living room shelf. Bikes. Oh, death. Bikes. Oh, death. Podcast.
All right. Well, today, ladies and gentlemen, I have with me Aaron Chamberlin. We're sitting in, where are we? Mueller Lake Park in Austin, Texas. Oh, and I brought him a beer, so cheers. I'm going to make you pick it up and cheers because you are the Austin beer guide and also the first man to ever circumnavigate the state of Texas on a bicycle.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
That's what you thought.
When I set out to do it, I did my due diligence and looked around, tried to find anybody talking about doing it or riding around Texas or whatever. And it wasn't until I got back that someone wrote, I wrote a series of stories for Texas Monthly about the ride. And there was a guy in 2005 who actually set out to do it. And I guess he did it twice, but it wasn't quite the same ride that I did. Like he didn't go down to Big Bend. So maybe you don't call it a full circumnavigation, but it was pretty close. And,
yeah.
He was doing it to he had cancer at one point, so he was doing it to raise cancer fund.
Oh wow!
So I mean, it was. So the idea was out there, I guess, but back in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
So that's probably why I couldn't find it online.
Does he have any proof? We need to validate his claims.
I know.
I'm kidding.
I did think that. And he wrote a book, apparently, and his kids actually got in touch with us because he passed away in 2011. They're sending it to me, and so I'm going to check it out. And I mean, I don't doubt it happened.
Yeah.
I believe him. It's just I want to see where he went and what his route was and how different from mine.
Yeah, there's no way it's the exact same route.
Yeah.
And I don't know who is the governing body that says which one was a true circumnavigate.
Right.
And then also, where does that go in the record books?
I think just in my own head.
In your own head. Was that your goal though? Did you want to be the first to do that?
Yeah, that's what the idea was. So last year I rode every single street in Texas on my bike. Oh, not Texas, Austin, sorry.
Okay.
Every single street in Austin. And that was kind of a fun project I worked on with my bike. And when that was finishing up, I wanted to do something, I guess, bigger, but not as long. So, time-wise. So that's when I thought of doing, riding around the entire perimeter of Texas. And from what I found, nobody had done it. So I was like, whatever I do, as slow as I go, it'll be the fastest known time. So...
When did you come up with the idea to do the Austin, ride every street in Austin? You did that last year, right?
That was last year. And that came from Ricky Gates, a runner he was in San Francisco at the time. He rode, he ran every single street in San Francisco. And then when he was done, he did in I don't remember what it was, 70 days or something, or 40 days. He kind of challenged all his Instagram followers and things like that to, go and do it in their town or their zip code or whatever their neighborhood. And so that's when I thought I can do this in Austin, but on my bike.
Yeah. I was thinking I've done quite a few podcast episodes at parks in Austin. So now I'm wondering if I should go for the first person to ever do an interview in every Austin
single park.
Yeah. That's my goal. I don't know how many parks there are. There's a lot though.
There's 5 in Mueller, so we could go do them all today. All 5 in Mueller.
There's 5 parks just here. I'm going to count Mueller as one
there's
park.
There's some micro little parks.
I'm going to count it as
park.
one park. Did you, whenever you did the one in Austin, was it for any other reason than just to have fun? Did you write an article about it or anything like that?
No, I didn't write an article. I just kind of kept up with it on my Instagram, Strava, and stuff like that. It was just for fun.
So how many total miles is that?
I think that ended up being just under 4,500 miles.
Oh, damn.
But it was over 11 months, I think.
Okay.
So it was not quite as intense. It was a lot of it ended up being, I'd get up at 4 a.m., drive out to some far distant spot of Austin, ride a neighborhood, and then come back and make the kids lunch and then get them off to school. So it was not, it wasn't exactly a super fun project all the times, but it was more about just ticking off streets and getting it done.
So did you like map it out and have a plan of attack, or how'd you like actually go about doing it?
I had I started with I got a whole map of Austin, put up in my garage, and I started by drawing off the streets I had done, marking off the streets, but then that just got too tedious. So I found a web app from some guy who you could upload all your Strava rides onto one giant map. So then from that map, I would zoom in on a neighborhood or an area, and I would print, take a screenshot, print it out, and just ride that area until I was done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How long? Oh, you said it took you 11 months to do that.
Yeah.
Man, that's crazy. Are you the first person to do that?
I think so. I'm all about firsts.
You just find like random obscure things that no one's ever done before.
Yeah, I don't do races, but I'll do these things that nobody else would want to do but be the first person.
I never had the idea to like ride around the state of Texas or even like ride every street in my town, but I didn't realize, I guess you were the inspiration for it, but I just recently moved back to like my old neighborhood that I grew up when I was like a kid and learned to ride bikes and stuff. And so like I was like, I'm going to ride every road in this old neighborhood, and and like it was fun, like a fun trip down memory lane. But it's also like what Eric and I were talking about last night is how well you like learn the city, you know, and like where you live when you just like get on a bike and like go see what's out there. So what did you learn about Austin that you didn't know from doing that, or what was your takeaway from that if you had one?
I learned I couldn't climb hills very well. It was all on my fixed gear.
Oh shit.
So there's a lot of hills in Austin, and I learned I was a bad climber. But no, I mean, you just get to know the city better. I mean, you see everything.
Yeah.
Like, I've done every single street, and I've seen every address in the city, basically.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of interesting.
Well, it's interesting when you like go through a city and you're like, I went on a 30-mile ride the other day in the town, and like you see everything from the nice neighborhoods to the bad neighborhoods to the, to the trails, to the, like you see like so much of the city whenever you like, and you like get a much better feel for how it's all put together.
Yeah. I mean, I also had the thought in my head, like, I used to skateboard. Well, I still skateboard, and it was kind of like spot hunting. You're just looking around for spots in neighborhoods and parts of town that you don't usually go into.
Yeah.
So the whole time I was spot hunting throughout the city.
That's funny. I grew up skateboarding, and injury to this knee here, at my left knee when I was 21. I was like, nope, that's it. I didn't skate for like 6 months, and it still hurt. So I don't know. I decided I was too old, but I know what that's like to like, you're always like looking for that spot, you're always like, and for the spot you can like go and they haven't like, fucked up the curb where you can't get on it, or like, it's hard to find places.
An open spot.
Well, like, I don't know. I mean, where I live now, man, there's skate parks. Like we didn't have a skate park when I was growing up. Now there's like an actual skate park. So
yeah, we had one in like 20 minutes from my house, and you had to pay like $15 to get into it. So,
so did you find some sweet skate spots?
I did. I haven't gone back to any. I just been riding my bike so much in the last year and a half. I just haven't really skated that much except for in my alley.
I gotcha. All right. So after you finished the ride every road in Austin, when did you have the idea to do the circumnavigate Texas, and how long before you actually like did it?
Yeah, that was towards the end of that project, so it was probably December, and I was thinking about it over Christmas break, so I started basically just planning the route, or the early stages, and telling my wife and my kids about it, and the whole time my daughter was saying, "You're not doing that, Dad. You're not doing that." Like,
how old's your daughter?
She's 8.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, like I know I'm probably not going to do it, but this is just like an idea, or like a dream, whatever. But I basically planned it out, and by January I had a plan, or a route. I just went from city to city, about doing 50 to 70 miles a day, not getting into like where I'd stay or anything, but just kind of from what city to what city it would be, and all the way around.
Yeah.
And I was not going to be doing any gravel roads really, or dirt roads, so just like decent roads, and mostly roads I could see on Google Street View. Just so I could tell, like, is this going to be rideable? Or is this,
Well, I'd love to know more about how you actually went about building the route and what you were looking for in the route and all that.
Yeah, early on, I was still planning on doing that on my fixed gear bike. And I'm glad I did not do that. Although I was listening to that your podcast with the guy that was his name, Matt.
Oh, Fixie Dave.
Fixie Dave.
Yeah.
And I was like, I should have done a fixed gear. I was like, he could do
Tour Divide.
Tour Divide on a fixed gear. I could do this
Route
on a fixed
66. Yeah, that guy is crazy.
So maybe next time we'll do a fixed gear. So yeah,
you'd definitely be the first to do that.
Yeah. So my friends were like, get a different bike. Get someone to give you a bike or buy a new bike. So yeah, I was looking for decent roads to ride on, not crazy highways or anything. Just it'd be great if we could find back roads and everything.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's why when you look at the map and it's especially in the Panhandle, like where I cut down to Dalhart, I kind of cut off the tip of the northwest corner of the Panhandle. And I was expecting to get more grief about that, but no one's really said anything about it. Especially people like, you didn't really do it. You missed a spot. Blah, blah, blah. And there are definitely spots where I missed. Like going from Rio Grande City to Laredo, there's a mines road, and it's all gravel.
Okay.
And it's like 100 miles, and that takes you just along. You're like right on the border, and instead of that, I kind of did a detour around back to just so I could be on better roads, basically highways.
Yeah.
And but yeah, that's how I would use Google Maps. I would use Strava routes. I would use Komoot. I would just kind of look at each one of those, and between the three, I kind of figure out which one looked the best to me as far as rideability. And Google Street View, I was able to get down there and I just drop my pin every few miles to see even what traffic looked like, things like that.
Man, I was talking to this about with Eric last time when we were chatting about it, how technology has made planning routes like so much easier. And I mean, you get on, like you said, Google Street View and just drive down a street and check it out. Check out. You can even see like what the speed limit is if there's a shoulder, like all that stuff. Yeah. Yeah,
shoulders are what I was looking for. There was roads that I decided not to do, but I ended up doing anyway. Because the roads I did pick were going to be bad. This is like all in the Permian Basin, which is like a nasty place to ride. Not recommended.
Why?
It's all oil field traffic.
Yeah.
Huge trucks. The smallest trucks.
It's all oil field roads too.
Yeah, the smallest trucks that are out there are just huge, like dually trucks, And then there's 18-wheelers and big sand trucks and things like that.
Yeah.
Trucks you never see around here. So
how'd they treat you?
Pretty well. I had really good luck. Obviously, only a few close passes and things like that, but a lot of truckers passed me on this trip, and 95% of them were great. Like most moved over, gave me space. So I can't really complain too much about the traffic.
Well, that's good. So how did the road actually go, or did the route go? Were you able to ride it, or how many detours did you have to make? Or
through the Permian Basin was one detour I ended up doing, which actually I saved a day, which I used in the desert later on going to El Paso. So instead of going down south from Kermit to Pecos, I just cut across through the Permian Basin and then up north to Orla, which Orla is like this nothing. It's got 2 gas stations. It's the only thing, and it's all oil field traffic. And so by doing that detour, I was able to have an extra day from the Guadalupe Mountains National Park to El Paso, which is like 100 miles. And it's just desert. So I was glad to have, and at that point I had my brother-in-law with me. So he was able to I rode for a day and he picked me up and we went into El Paso, and then we came back to the spot I stopped at, and I finished off the desert to El Paso.
Was that because of supplies or safety or?
I guess I wasn't planning on having him there. I was going to just sleep somewhere out there.
Yeah.
That was the idea. I was just happy not to have to do that. I was lucky.
So what do you do I'm curious how this worked out. So you work for Texas Monthly.
Correct.
Did an article for them. So, I mean, was this part of your job? Did you pitch this to them?
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious how that goes.
Yeah, so it took 2 months. So I was off. Well, I wasn't off. I was out of town for 2 months. So my job is, I'm not a writer for them. I'm in production. So I first pitched it to the edit department. I said, I already do some beer writing for Texas Monthly once in a while. So I approached my editor, who I usually write beer stuff for, and I asked them, I said, they knew about my project last year, and I had kind of been teasing this idea about going around Texas. And, we cover everything Texas, so it seemed like a perfect idea for Texas Monthly. So I told them, I kind of pitched the idea of riding around Texas and then just kind of doing a diary or dispatch. I originally said every other day I'll turn something in. And they're like, no, just do it weekly. That's fine. So once they were okay with it, I had to go to my boss basically in production and make sure they were cool, like me taking off for 2 months.
Yeah.
And, obviously we're in a weird time right now. We're COVID. So we're all working from home anyway.
Right.
Like nobody was really in the office. So I kind of used that to my advantage. I said, I can still be available in the afternoons if you need help with, production work or things like that. As far as we approve every page for Texas Monthly before it goes to the printer. So, I'll be available on deadline weeks. So anytime you need me, like I'm pretty much available. I'm just going to be writing in the mornings. Afternoons, I'm yours.
That's ambitious.
Yeah, it was.
That sounds like a lot of work. Did they hold you to that? Like, were you literally having to work?
They were pretty kind about it. They knew they could contact me, but I feel like they didn't lean on me as much as they might have if I was in town.
Yeah.
So
well,
that helped out.
Was writing the article part of your job then? Like, did you
Technically, for those 2 months, it was, yeah.
So you were a professional cyclist for 2 month of your life.
Yeah, that's what I was telling Sophia.
That's
Sophia, my wife.
That's the way I look at
pro.
it. Well, I'm pro now.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, it's so interesting how people are able to like go on these trips because you're like, dude, how do people like do this? And that's one thing. Like whenever I started a question or a podcast, I always want to ask people that question, like, how do you do this? Because most people have a job, and oftentimes I find that they just figured out a creative way to make it work. Was there any like concern from your work of you like getting injured?
Yeah, I kind of told a little white lie. I said I'm already riding every single day I'm riding every 60 miles every day anyway around town. Which I wasn't. I was like, I was doing maybe 20, 30 miles a day. But I told them I was already out there on a bike. So I might as well be riding around somewhere else and giving content for the website.
Yeah.
And so they're like, oh, okay, sounds good. That seemed to...
That's a good point. I mean, if you're riding your bike every day, I mean, it's like, well, I can ride my bike every day here.
Yeah, you're already putting yourself in danger. So anywhere you are, I think.
Yeah.
I've had more close encounters just downtown Austin.
Oh, geez, yeah.
Like I was hit by a car, not hard, just from behind.
It just bumped you a little,
Yeah,
huh?
it just bumped me a little bit. So I mean, that was worse than anything I had on the trip. So I feel like, obviously you're out there every day, so there is a danger, obviously. But
well, I'm glad
it's either out there or in town. So
yeah. I mean, dude, it's always a risk. We all know that. So,
yeah.
But I'm glad. I was just wondering from like a business, if they were like your boss, like, I don't know if we. Like, it's one thing for you to ride your bike around,
right?
Austin, not affiliated with Texas Monthly, but then to like be writing an article for
Texas
them,
Monthly,
yeah, I don't know.
I know that when I told them that they seemed okay with that. I don't know. I thought I got more questions.
Then there's like COVID going on, so that's a consideration, and then safety, like being not getting hit, but the
Safety
border, like going
on
across along the border of Texas and Mexico. So, I mean, I guess I actually kind of wanted to ask two questions there. I was curious what your employers and what kind of conversations y'all had about that going into it, or your own personal thoughts, and then like how did it go?
Yeah, like there were conversations about COVID risks, and I kind of had to reassure one of the editors, where would I be staying? And I told them, oh, I'll be camping. Don't worry. Like, I'm not going to spend a lot of money. And they're like, we're not worried about money, really. We're worried about you being safe with the coronavirus. And I said, oh, yeah. Like, I mean, I'm going to be, I'm not going to be around a lot of people most of the time. But, I will be staying in some hotels. And they were worried about central AC. And I said, well, I'm not going to be staying in hotels with central AC, that's for sure. And there were none. It was all just in the wall. Then, safety as far as like, sleeping outdoors or being near the border or any other like risky towns, I guess. I don't know. I didn't really think about it too much. A few people asked me, "Are you packing? What are you bringing?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I got a machine gun strapped to the front of the bike. Don't worry."
You got a frying pan, you'll whop them on the head.
Yeah, I mean, I just, it's one of those things that about, but you try not to think about too much.
What about like a spot tracker or one of the, get out of jail where you push the SOS buttons?
Yeah, I didn't have one of those either. And like the time that would have been probably more helpful was, when you're in more areas like, out west, pretty much.
Right.
And but all the other times I was, pretty near civilization, things like that.
Well, I mean, yeah, it could be a number of things that could go wrong, and you need.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have cell phone service out in West Texas a lot of the time, obviously, So, but yeah, I mean, I that's got to be a consideration though if you're like going to do this. I mean, you're going through. I mean, the other thing I was thinking about is just like the social and political climate going on. I mean, you got like so much stuff going on, and you're traversing, in the entire state. One of the questions that we got from Instagram, it was Monumental Loop. I think his name is Matt. He said, so do you like Texas more or less, having ridden the entire perimeter? and maybe you could just say like, what did you take away from it after seeing so much and seeing so much of Texas, meaning so many of the different people, and like there's so much going on right now.
It was weird being in some towns, obviously they're so different from Austin or even Brownsville, where I spent a lot of time because my wife's family's from down there. So like, on the border, a lot of it felt like Brownsville. Like I was, I'm pretty comfortable in that type of city. But then like, places like the Panhandle and North Texas were pretty different, but like you'd go into places and like they'd have signs like no mask free zone, and I was like, oh really? Shit. I was like, yeah, like
wait, you were not allowed to wear a mask?
That's what they said, but I had my mask on and I was like, just give me my coffee, and they didn't say anything.
Okay.
And I didn't see it until like after I got my coffee. I was like walking out my coffee and I see this sign. It says mask free zone. I'm like, all right. so there's obviously that attitude out there, and the whole election going on, and everyone's got their sides. But I mean, I grew up in Florida, so it's kind of a similar situation. Like I grew up in Orlando, but once you get outside Orlando, it's a lot different. It's rural.
Right.
And
same in Texas, like.
Yeah, I mean, like East Texas felt like, and I went to school in Mississippi, so it felt pretty comfortable for me in East Texas, or not comfortable, just familiar. And but also, I said this in my last article, like it's also comfortable for me because I am, I'm white male, heterosexual, cis guy. So it's not that it's easy, but it's a lot easier for me than a lot of other people. It would be for a lot of other people.
Yeah.
So even, especially during times like these, possibly. That was always kind of in my head as I was riding around Panhandle and places like that.
Yeah. So did you come away with like a better feeling about?
I mean, yeah, I enjoyed parts of every place I went through.
Yeah.
And then like people I met were, nice, kind, people offered me places to stay, or, gave me places to stay in, East Texas and the Panhandle, El Paso, and anybody that ever asks, a lot of people ask you what you're doing, because you don't see a lot of people coming through with a bike loaded down, and, they usually offer you water and things like that. So, it's, most people are pretty, friendly and nice, kind. A couple people just kind of shake their heads like you're crazy, but I mean that's as far as it went.
Well, it's interesting, like the way. I mean, I'm asking the question purely out of curiosity, because like I'm of the opinion that a lot of times like situations are inflamed to get a reaction, and we're like just in this toxic media environment. I'm sorry, I know you're in the media, so I don't want to, not all, but you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, we're all like ramped up to 1,000. And sometimes I wonder like how much of it is just like stuff we're seeing, and it's on the internet. And then, you go out in the world and, you go to the grocery store and everybody seems fine. And
yeah,
I mean, I know it's not fine everywhere, but you know what I'm saying? Like,
right,
it's one thing to like, listen to, all these, it's a hot political and a social climate. And okay, but what is it like really like to go out and ride your bike and interact with like tons of different people and,
right,
and stuff. So yeah, it's interesting. Like when you break it down, like people are generally, at least I grew up in Texas, so I actually don't
Right.
haven't lived anywhere else to have any perspective. But again, being a white dude in Texas, like I haven't, run into too many problems either.
Yeah, I mean, and like politically, socially, it's like the majority of the places I was in, are it's like a red state zone, except for like once you get to El Paso and then along the valley, or along the river. I mean, that's when it kind of turns. Although it's the day after election, it kind of changed a little bit, but I mean, other than that, you're basically in just a red state, and I grew up in red state. I went to school in red state. I'm pretty comfortable around red staters. My whole family are Republicans, so
yeah, me too. My whole family is Republican.
Yeah.
So I guess, I mean, you're not a native Texan, you're a Floridan, but a similar demographic, let's say, and political climate. I mean, I'm not an expert, but you hear things and you're telling me, so I believe you.
It's true. I'm in the media.
But I've thought about, like I'm working on a route in East Texas right now, doing a race in East Texas, and I wonder like what outsiders' perspectives is going to be, and if they're going to have the same comfortability with, I don't know, like to me it's like I don't ever feel like if I see a big dually with the Trump sticker and stuff, like you sometimes you wave, sometimes you don't, you just mind your own business, you just keep on going, like
daily occurrence.
Yeah, it's just what it is, right?
Yeah.
But I wonder, I don't know. I'm curious to see how, I think for us, it's just like, yeah. But I mean, you saw like a lot of Texas. I mean, it's one thing to like grow up, but like, yeah, I mean, you were like all over. So
yeah, I was all over, but I didn't see much.
What was your favorite place or part of Texas?
I've been telling people, like, I mean, it's city-wise, I'd say El Paso, just because it's just a really big city that feels a lot different than the other big cities. I've been to Dallas, San Antonio, Houston. It just feels a lot different. One, it's in the mountains. You have it's like set in the mountains, kind of like a Denver or something. So it just seemed really cool, and I would like to go back. Even though a lot of people have bad things to say about El Paso, I don't really know.
Really, I've only heard good things.
I was there for 2 days, so it seemed cool to me. So I want to go back there.
It's funny. I've never. Well, it's not funny. I would really like to go, but I've never been. And usually when I say that, people are like, "Oh my gosh, you got to go." I've never heard any bad things.
Yeah, Guadalupe Mountains National Park.
It's right there.
Really pretty.
Yeah.
So I mean, just one trip right there.
Okay. All right. So that's your favorite city.
Yeah.
I've heard nothing but good things.
Yeah, I liked it. I'd go back. The national park up there is great. We just camped one night there. I mean, I'd like to spend more time there, obviously.
And you can't ride your bike there.
No, it's not like Big Bend. How there's like. It felt different. Like, Big Bend is like expansive. There's a lot of roads going through it.
Yeah.
Guadalupe is just kind of like this piece tucked up in the top of next to the Panhandle, and it felt a lot smaller, but it was really pretty.
Have you been there before?
I hadn't been there before. Yeah.
Did you camp there?
We camped there one night. Yeah.
Oh,
nice. It was pretty awesome.
It's on my bucket list too. I know Edward Abbey wrote a lot about it, and yeah, it's just on the bucket list.
Yeah.
There's too many places.
Yeah, I mean, then obviously, like, and then there's also, like, how Big Bend has all those satellite towns around it, or not around it, but north of it.
Yeah.
So it kind of has like, it's got a whole destination thing where the Guadalupe Mountains National Park doesn't have much around it.
Okay.
So I think it gets forgotten a lot, but the actual park is really nice.
All right. So your favorite town? What did you have a favorite like territory or area?
Probably West Texas, just because it was the best weather overall. It's cool at night. You camp at night, and it was nice, and it was dry. And then the terrain was varied. It was, the roads weren't that great, but it was like challenging, but it was also the most rewarding riding of the trip.
I love that region. What was the Panhandle the worst, or the
Panhandle was the worst?
Yeah.
I hate to. I mean, it's like everybody like kind of knows that or would guess that, but I mean, yeah, it's just from what I saw. I wasn't in the center, so I don't really know. I was just on the edges.
Right. You only saw what you saw.
It's a lot of farms. I went through a lot of farms, and the wind just was like horrible.
That's what I was thinking. The wind, man.
Yeah, I had one day on the way to Booker, Texas. Like Booker, I guess, is the northernmost city or town in Texas. And the day I got in there, I was like in a rough shape. I wanted to quit. I was about halfway through. I think mostly I was dehydrated at the end of the day, but I was just like this insane crosswind all the last 2 hours of the day. And it was like I felt like I was at a 45-degree angle the whole time, but I'm sure it wasn't that bad.
Oh, it was miserable.
But it was bad, and it was just gusting. And So when I got done with that ride, I just felt like shit.
What was the worst weather you experienced? And you can include wind.
Yeah, it was wind. I mean,
Wind was the
I
worst,
got
yeah.
I got one day a little bit of rain going to Paris, but I mean, that was the only day I even put on a rain jacket.
Oh, wow.
And then one day it rained a little bit in the morning, but it was before I left, and it stopped, and it was fine the rest of the day.
Wow.
And so no rain. I got really lucky. So just wind. Like one day along the border, it was just like 25-mile-per-hour gusts in my face for 55 miles. It was the worst.
I think wind is the worst.
Yeah, and then the next day it shifted. It was behind me, and it was the best day.
That's a good point. Wind could be the best or the worst.
Yeah, it's a give and take.
So what I don't want to pronounce what you called the route because I'm going to mess it up. But what did you call it?
I mess it up too.
All right, perfect. Well, you mess it up.
Okay, I'll mess it up. I call it Vuelta de Texas.
And what does that mean?
Like the Vuelta in what they call it, the Vuelta España, or it's the big race in Spain.
Okay.
And it's like the Tour de France. I don't know. That's not. It's actually where I got it from. My brother-in-law came up with a name. I was like, oh, it sounds good. Like around Texas, But basically, that's the rough translation.
Okay.
Around Texas, or the ride around Texas.
Gotcha.
So just to give it a little different flair.
All right. I wanted to talk about your equipment, and you mentioned earlier, like you had your fixie for. Is your fixie like your only bike? And then I was
my only. Well, I have an old Trek touring bike, which is not really in. My wife uses it right now, just around the neighborhood. So I haven't been riding that for a while. So my fixed gear bike was like the only bike I rode.
Oh wow!
For like
so why were
7 years?
why fixed gear? When did that happen? And
I just like the simplicity of it.
Yeah.
Basically, that's how it started.
Why is the simplicity of a fixed gear better than the simplicity of a single speed?
Single speed sounds good to me too. It sounds better.
Okay.
It's just that I don't know. I bought it. It had a flip flop hub, and I rode single speed for a while. Then I was like, I don't know. I thought it was like a challenge or something.
Yeah.
So I switched it back. I switched it over to fix, and I just stayed on that.
Okay.
I just liked the ability to slow down without using your brakes, things like that.
Right.
I just got used to it, I guess.
And now that you've ridden gears for a couple months, what are your feelings?
I haven't ridden my fixed gear since I've been back, so and it needs a new chain. So I'm not sure if I'm sure I'll go back. The two bikes are like totally different as far as the way, the way you sit on them and you feel on them, and besides the gearing, so it just feels weird to sit on that bike.
How long have you been back?
I've been back, let's see, 5 days.
Oh man, how do you feel? I meant to ask you earlier on.
Good. I mean, I never like I guess people say like when you're on a big tour, what do they say? Like the first week or 2 weeks are kind of hard. But
it depends. I've heard 500 miles from some people. It's like whatever.
Then you like get in shape for the tour.
Yeah.
Like, you get in shape for the ride.
Yeah, you ride
doing.
into shape.
And I guess that's what happened because it was a little, but I started off easy because it started off by the coast. It was all flat.
Right.
So that may have helped too. I just started off flat. It was probably 400 miles of just flat riding, and then until I got up into the East Texas, and that's when the hills, some hills started. By that point, I'd been riding, a lot every day, so it didn't really bother me too much.
Was that by design?
I don't remember why originally. I think I wanted to end along the border, like come down the border at the end.
Well, you said you had family in Brownsville,
I had family in Brownsville, yeah. So that's why I started in Brownsville.
Yeah, that makes and
it ended there, but I can't remember the reason why I decided to go counterclockwise. But
I would want to live Big Bend for the end. I could imagine
that might have been part of it. And
well, you got you got Guadalupe, El Paso, Big Bend, all to look forward to.
As I was riding through, I was kind of happy that I did it that way because coming from the west to the east, riding east towards the Guadalupe Mountains, like all of the climbing is you go straight up. But for me, I was coming from the east towards the west, and it's a real gradual climb. So that suited me better, I think.
Did you like train for this, and how did you train?
No, I just rode a lot.
Just rode a lot.
Yeah, I guess that's training. Just riding.
What about
as much
training for the carrying gear, the camping aspect of it? Did you have experience with that going into it?
I mean, I had experience camping, but carrying gear, not really. I did some real small rides a few days before with everything on there. Like
few days before.
I mean, real small rides. I was in Brownsville. I would ride from my in-laws' house to this little place that had beer at the front of the neighborhood and back, and that was the whole ride.
And you felt good. You're like, yeah, I got this. I got Texas.
Well, I did figure it was flat for a long time, so I'd probably be okay. It just is, gradually builds up. So,
well, how much do you ride before going into this? I mean, were you trying to do like 100-mile weeks or 500-mile weeks?
I was trying to get up like 200-mile weeks.
200, okay.
Yeah. So I did increase
all
my
on your
mileage.
fixie, or did you transfer over to your geared bike?
I got my bike, the Salsa that I'm riding now. I got that in June. So that was, what was that? That was
like a few months?
3 months.
Yeah, like
about 2.5 months before
like
I took off. So then from then on, I was riding that bike the whole time.
I gotcha. All right. So what bike was it? And what bike was it?
I got a Salsa Journeyman, like the Apex 1.
Oh, yeah. Sarah had that bike. That was the first bike she got.
Yeah.
How did it do?
It did well for me. Like, I'm not real smart as far as bikes go. I'm good at beer. As far as bikes go, like, my thought was, I'm going to get a 1-by. Because that's closer to a fixed gear bike.
Yeah.
And it's just less things to go wrong.
Right.
That was my thinking behind it. And then I only have one derailleur to worry about. That's why I ended up with this particular bike. And everything on it is pretty much how it came stock.
Right.
I put a Surly rack on the front so I could carry some bags that I got from Drew.
Shout out to Drew.
Yeah, there you go, Drew. So he gave me some panniers to carry in the front. So I was originally going to do it on my fixed gear bike. So I'd already started buying like bike packing bags.
Okay.
So I had a saddle bag already. I had a frame bag. So I used all those on this bike when it came to it.
Oh, it all converted over pretty easy?
Yeah. It worked. I mean, the frame bag wasn't great, but it was fine.
Yeah. What was your plan for sleeping? Like, did you have a plan, or was it just
my original plan was I was going to do a lot of camping. Like, I'm going to camp all the time.
All right.
Like wild camp, whatever, any place I could find. That kind of changed a little bit. I didn't do any wild camping, but that was kind of, my wife didn't really want me to do it.
No wild camping.
No wild camping.
Is that
so?
Are you just saying that because you're being recorded?
No, but then I was also like, now that I'm writing about this for Texas Monthly, like I felt like it'd be kind of irresponsible to talk about wild camp. Like maybe they wouldn't care. I don't know.
Well, I was just curious if it could be done without wild camping with the amount of private land.
That's the other thing I was worried about. I mean, where do you wild camp? I mean, maybe you'd be okay. I don't know if you'd try to sleep somewhere and you get rustled in the middle of the night with a guy in your shotgun in your face.
Yeah.
You never know.
No, you don't.
So since I was able to do this for Texas Monthly, I slowly got out of the habit of thinking I was going to camp the whole time. Although I camped about a quarter of the time where I could find, like RV parks that let me camp. Some places along the way had like little parks in the middle of town where you could camp. And those were cool, like Canadian Texas. But then a lot of times I would end up staying in hotels. So I carried my camping stuff a lot for not many uses.
That's what I was just thinking. Do you know how much your whole kit weighed?
It weighed a lot. Like, I mean,
nobody knows the answer to that question. I think nobody wants to know.
Yeah. So Sophia was like, "You should weigh the bike." I'm like, "I don't want to weigh it. I have to carry it no matter what. Like, I'm not going to weigh it. Like, I'm not carrying. I had to carry a laptop. So I had to work.
Yeah.
So that's why I had the panniers. Like, so I had to figure out a way to carry the laptop. So it was either that or
could you do it without camping though? Like, could you do it and take a lot less gear, or do you just need the gear for what ifs and maybes and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, if you plan on not camping the whole time, I guess you wouldn't need that. But
do you think it'd be done though?
Like, would stay in hotels the whole time? Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't know how much resources there were along the way. I mean, obviously
most of the places, 90% of the trip, there's places to camp, and that was one of the. When I say I kind of like a mental breakdown in Booker, because part of that was I was dehydrated, and also I was like really worried about where I was going to stay the next night, because there was no RV parks, there was no camping. I mean, there's no campsites, there was no motels in the town, and I was kind of freaking out a little bit. And then I was following this one kid that was going from, I kind of met online during this trip, and he was riding from Michigan he was doing the Route 66 route. Mm-hmm. And he sent me a message where he was like sleeping in a playground. And I was like, oh, I guess if all else fails, I'll sleep in a playground tomorrow. And but then someone ended up emailing me like, there is a motel in town, and I own it, and you can stay there.
Oh wow!
But it's not on Google, and you can only see it on Street View, but there's no sign for it. And then like one of my friends was like, "Dude, you're being catfished. Be careful." I was like, "No, I believe him. He sounds trustworthy." And
he was just like following your story, and
I think I put it out there. I said, "Look, I'm looking for a place in Groover if anybody knows anything."
I think I remember that.
Yeah. So someone that was following me, I think, used to live there and contacted them.
Oh man.
Yeah, so it helped out.
So cool.
And it ended up being a really nice motel. Yeah.
He just doesn't want anybody to stay there.
Yeah, just not on Google for some reason. I don't know. I'm like, I should help you out with your SEO.
Did you have a lot of people that came out and rode with you throughout the trip?
Not a lot, but I had 2 guys from Longview come out and ride with me from Marshall to Texarkana. And then I had Jared came out.
Jared Foster, yeah.
Jared came out with one of my friends that lives in Lubbock. My friend Sean said, "I'm going to bring 2 guys." I go, "Okay, cool." Like, I just thought it'd be 2 other dads. I guess it was 2 other dads. But and then Jared, I had started following Jared on this trip on Instagram. And then so when he showed up, I was like, "Is that Jared Foster guy?" And then he's taking photos of my stuff, and I was like, I met him. He's like, "Yeah, I'm Jared." And I was like, I think that's and I had to look him up. I was like, "Oh, that's Jared Foster." So I was like, "Oh yeah, we follow each other on Instagram." He's like, "Yeah, I know."
That's what he's like. Yeah, I know.
He's like, "Yeah, that's why I'm here."
Hey, Jared's a cool dude. He was episode number 3, I think, for the podcast. He was.
Wow.
You and him look similar too. Y'all could be brothers. Maybe.
We are brothers.
Y'all are brothers. Y'all found out on the trip.
Yeah. Like, oh my God.
I wanted to come out and ride with you. My life was just crazy, and I also kind of wanted to talk to you like after it was over to like get the full, like, part of me was like, man, it'd be cool to like go ride with him and see how it's going. But I guess I could have like done that, but my life's crazy because I'm moving and getting divorced and all kinds of fun stuff. So you gotta do what you gotta do. Oh yeah, 2020 has been fun. How did you hold up mentally? So like, it sounds like physically you did pretty well. Were you ever like, fuck, what am I doing? I don't want to be here, or just get bored or any of that?
Any days that were wind, I was thinking that the whole time. But I mean, the only real problem day was that day in Booker when I finished in Booker. And I just felt like shit. And I wanted to quit. I wanted to go home. And after that, I would look for signs of my mind going there to that place. At certain points I thought it was going there, but never did. So after that, so that was about a halfway point. I was pretty much fine. Because after that, it was kind of, I'm on the down, almost done. You kept getting closer and closer to the end. So that was really the only one time I had any mental issues with the ride. And in physical issues, I was a little after that. My knee starts hurting, and I'm like, fuck. I'm like, and it's kept getting worse and worse.
Interesting.
So I'm like, oh damn, like this I didn't want. Like, I get it if you like just feel like you can't finish, but like I don't want to just not do it just because my knee starts like getting so bad or I can't ride.
Right.
But I don't know if that might have been a mental thing. Like,
well, that's what I was about to ask.
Thinking about it the whole like I'm thinking about every pedal stroke. I'm like, oh, that's my knee. That's my knee. That's my knee.
Yeah.
And but after I try to just put you put it out of your head, and then like I think it's it would hurt for like a week, and then it kind of went away.
Interesting.
So,
yeah, I was wondering when you were saying that if it was like the negative headspace or
it
whatever
been,
that was like contribute. I don't know. I mean, I'm no freaking doctor, but I've talked to other people about that before, and it seems like there's a correlation between like your mental state and your physical state,
Sure.
And if you can stay in a good mental place, physically it's just going to go a little bit better. And I don't know what that connection is there. So what was the biggest motivator to finish? Did you have like, when things get tough, like something that you would always like go to and be like, all right, I can't fucking quit?
Professional shame. I mean, yeah, like I mean, it kind of was that. Like, I
think that's a legitimate answer.
I mean, you committed to it. You're like, okay, I'm leaving. I'm gonna give you guys 8 articles.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just the articles, but just the idea that I was putting it out there.
Yeah.
And even on Instagram, on Facebook, on whatever, everyone that I knew I was doing this. Right. So I didn't want to not finish.
I think that's a big motivator. I've only done one like big event. It was a 500-mile race, and all the messages that you get, and people are watching your dot, and like okay, I really, it does like lift you up and make you like want to push a little bit harder. Because if you're just like, maybe I'm weak, I'm thinking about myself, and I'm like, if it was just me, I might quit, but if I know that there's people
Right.
watching and following and encouraging me and kind of expect, like you said, I'm going to do it. So it's kind of like what you said you were going to do.
Yeah. I mean, and it's also like you just personally, you set that goal. I mean, I'm not that I'm great at setting personal goals and accomplishing them, but sometimes I am when I really want to do them. And this is one that I really wanted to do. So.
Well, it would suck to get 80% there and then have to go and do it again or something like that.
Yeah, or I'll finish in 2 months and that's cool, but it's not really what I set out to do.
Was there anything that kept it from almost not happening? I mean, surprisingly, it sounds like you went 2 months, 3,000 miles, and did you even have a flat tire?
Yeah, I had flat tires, and so I started off with the tires that it came with, and they were Terraville Cannonballs. And they're great. They're fine. Obviously not the best road tire, which was I was doing riding roads. And but whatever, they're good enough. But I should not have started because I'd already been riding them for almost 3 months. Around town here.
Oh yeah.
So they were kind of worn down by the time I started. And so about halfway through the ride, I had to get new tires, and I had issues with. I told you I'm kind of bike dumb, so getting the tires on the freaking rims, I could not do. I was having the worst time, and I was tearing tubes. I was riding with tubes.
Okay.
So I was tearing tubes, and so there were some issues with tires and things like that. But I mean, nothing that stopped me from going.
Do you regret not changing to tubeless before?
Yeah, a little bit, not really. But when I went to a bike shop. 2 guys from the bike shop, I forgot to say this, 2 guys from the bike shop in Brownsville rode out with me the first day. And the owner of the bike shop, JT Cycling. I went there the day before to get some last minute things, and he was checking out my bike, looking it over. I'm like, don't say anything bad. And he's like, you're running tubes? And I go, yeah. He's like, why aren't you doing tubeless? I'm like, I don't know. I've never done tubeless. I didn't want to start tubeless on this right before I leave on a trip. And I'm not, I don't know. I wanted to stick with what I knew. Yeah. That's why. And then the guys that rode with me from Marshall to Texarkana were saying the same thing to me. and then I got that was my first flat that day.
You're like, guys, you don't understand. I'm bike dumb. I know tubes. I know how they work.
Yeah. I was like, it's basic. And so I got a flat, changed flat. So they were talking about tubeless, yada, yada, yada. And then one of them gets a flat. David gets a flat. And he's like, no problem, put my bacon strips in it and all this stuff. And I'm like, nope.
That's not going to work.
It didn't work. So he had to put a tube in it. And I was like, okay, there you go. So, but I mean, yeah. Then I had another guy ride with me my friend here across the street here, Jamie. He rode with me the whole trip through Big Bend. And he's riding tubeless. He had no problems. But that day he started riding with me in Marfa, from there on, I never got a flat. So he was like, good luck.
Oh, nice.
I had a weird issue somewhere in the El Paso area where just having all kinds of flats, all kinds of problems. But then from Marfa to Brownsville, I had no flats, and I still haven't had a flat. So
saddle sores?
No, nothing like that.
Were you wearing? We've been talking about this lately. Were you wearing cameos, or were you?
I was, yeah.
Okay.
So but I was wearing basic. They're just bike. I was wearing tight bike shorts, and then I had a few pairs of mountain bike with chamois in them.
Okay.
But I mean, yeah.
So you just clean them every once in a while?
Yeah, I just do a wash every once in a while.
That's a good thing about staying in a hotel.
Yeah.
I wanted to see how have you been surprised by the reaction that you've gotten and the story has gotten? Because I'm kind of in the bike world, so it was on my radar early on. A lot of people were sending it to me, and actually Drew told me about it. He was like, you gotta, I think you were leaving for the Texas trip the next day, and he was like, oh,
yeah, I think that was the day I was going to his house to pick up the panniers.
Yeah, to pick up the panniers for the trip.
Yep.
Did you have to borrow any other gear? Or?
Yeah, I borrowed a tent.
From Drew?
No, from Carol. I forgot their last name. They're on Twitter. They follow me on Twitter.
Okay.
They were like, yeah, you can borrow my tent. So I was like, cool.
It's crazy. You ride a fixie around Austin and stuff, but it really does show pretty much anybody with a decent amount of fitness can just go buy a bike, throw some bags on it, plan a route and go ride 3,000 miles. It's
no
totally doable. I don't know I don't know. Is it?
If you have the time, I think it's not that. It's
really not that big of a deal.
besides certain days, it wasn't that bad. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just if you have the time to put in and the desire, I feel like pretty much. I mean, I'm not super in shape or anything like that, so
Yeah, you're not a couch potato, but
No,
you're not like
yeah.
a super athlete or
right
anything.
now.
Yeah, but I mean, I think if you just like, I mean, someone reads the story, like, you know, when I've actually, Sarah was telling me about one of her clients that was like just randomly talking about you, you know, and like people are like they'll see this guy rode 3,000 miles around the state of Texas. Like, holy shit, you know, like I can't even drive my car across. I mean, that's probably what you hear more than anything.
I do that in a car.
Most people won't even do it in a
it's true.
car. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's always neat to like try to put that in perspective, and like anyone can like go and do it just about if they want to. All right, so you can't go 3,000 miles, 2 months around the state of Texas without coming away with a few good stories. But what was your favorite story or interaction from the trip?
It was kind of a boring trip, I'll tell you.
Was it really? Like, no craziness?
Everyone's like, you know, I was on a podcast 2 days ago, and they're like, you probably have some crazy stories. And I'm like, not really. Everyone was nice. I mean, you know, the craziest, I mean, not crazy, but just meeting some, like I met someone, ran into somebody from work, you know, in Lajitas. They're going rafting. I saw him. He's going rafting, and we're at some gas station. We just ran into somebody. I mean, that's as crazy as it got. I ran into somebody from Austin.
That's insane, man. You must have like really good luck, or
I guess so.
you like avoided all the crazy people.
Yeah, I didn't have any
no
crazy people interactions.
Didn't have any like crazy detours or anything.
It was really a boring trip.
Did you get any like crazy reactions just from people, like, you know, I mean, you had to like pop into a gas station. I mean, I know we're all kind of avoiding people, and that might be part of it too. It's just like, and maybe that's it. It's just like we're all kind of avoiding each other. And
even in North Texas when they're not, but everyone kind of gives everyone's their space. But I mean, yeah, you had a lot of like, what? Oh, you're going around the state like on a bike, blah blah blah. You know, there's a lot of disbelief, or, you know, I think when you tell someone that, it doesn't really register. Like,
no, they can't put it
like, what? It's like, why? That's a big one. Why? I'm like, I don't know. I like to ride my bike.
That's the best answer you could give.
Yeah.
So what's next for you? I'm wondering, now that you've like cracked that egg with your employer, like if you're like, all right, you did one, what else can we do?
That's my beat.
That's your beat.
Yeah. Definitely want to do more, not 2-month rides. That's for sure. I don't have that much freedom anymore. Not for a while anyway.
Any other states?
I mean, I thought about it. I mean, like, what if I started doing this two states a year? But then like that's kind of just, I mean, riding around the state is kind of dorky anyway. You're just doing it to end up with a drawing at the end. It's like, oh, check this out. I got that.
It's not like you're going to a destination or looking at something pretty.
It's just like a challenge, I guess, and challenges are kind of funny sometimes. It's not a race. There's no like prize money or anything like that at the end. I don't know. Like, yeah, I thought about doing states, like, I mean, or just doing states that mean something to me, like Florida. If I were going to do a state next, I'd do Florida.
Yeah.
And that'd be a lot easier than Texas.
Yeah.
A lot of beach time.
Yeah, you just camp on the beach every night. It'd be nice and
easy.
Flat. Depends on which way you're going. I guess you'll have a wind to deal with.
Yeah, I don't know how the winds work down there. Yeah, I mean, there's one ride that we want to do, called the Saint to Saint ride, and there's it's from between two breweries. One, St. Elmo in Austin, ride to St. Arnold in Houston.
Okay.
So whatever, it's 150 miles or something like that.
Yeah, that'd be a good beer ride.
Camp in the middle,
Yeah, that'd be a good beer ride.
Yeah.
Sign me up for that one.
That should be a fun one.
When's that one going down?
That's 2021. I think.
Right.
That's the plan.
Yeah, I think everyone's planning for 2021. How has the reaction been from you doing it? Has everyone been like real supportive, or did anybody give you shit for doing this during COVID or anything?
No, surprisingly. Again, that's my good luck, I guess. The reactions.
Your home life must be absolute shit. I'm kidding.
It's great.
I have the best life.
The funniest reaction is people, like, just like on Instagram or something, like, yeah, I knew someone that did that in 1984. It's like, okay, like, really, like, I never believe them. Someone the other day said, someone did that. A group of people did that. They're called like GET, or it was like initials or something. I looked it up, and it was a motorcycle ride. I'm like, oh yeah, people riding around on a motorcycle. It's not the same thing.
I called I'm working on a little camping bike packing trip, and I called this facility and I said, hey, I got, some cyclists were going to come in, how many? And I told them we were coming from like 75 miles away, and they're like, oh, they're like, man, there's some other cyclists that do that every single year. And I started talking to her. I'm like, are those motorcycles? And she said, yeah. I said, no, we're riding our bikes. And she's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I think I had a few, when I show up, they're like, oh, you're on a bicycle. Like when you called us last night, we thought you were coming in on your motorcycle.
Yeah.
Like, no.
Well, people just don't expect it.
Yeah.
It's just not what you expect to like see a guy roll up
right
on a freaking bicycle, especially like some of those remote places in North and West Texas. It's just what are you doing out here, buddy?
Yep.
What you doing? All right. Well, it's a beautiful day in Austin. I think we should, I'm going to go ride my bike, enjoy a sunset ride. Where do you like to ride around here? Where's your favorite place to go ride?
I mean, I like riding the neighborhood, but I mean, to get outside the neighborhood, I like going north of here and kind of riding. You can ride to the New Sweden Church if you want a real good ride.
What kind of roads is it?
It's like farm to market road, kind of back roads.
How many miles?
I don't know what the shortest distance, like from there and back. It's like 40 miles. That's kind of a long ride.
Yeah. I just want to drink a beer and watch the sunset.
Yeah. Then I would go. You could ride.
Lady Bird.
You could ride to Oddwood, which is just south of here.
Oddwood?
Yeah.
What's that?
You just go through the neighborhood here. It's a brewery that has a little patio.
Oh, in Texas where you can do that.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, you can't do that everywhere in the world right now, but
LA just opened up their breweries. I
no
think.
way.
Yeah,
Did they really?
I just saw that online.
Oh my gosh, LA's coming back. Holy crap, we thought we lost them. They've been shut down
maybe
forever.
LA or all of California. It's probably just LA. So I don't think San Francisco's back.
Last question. How hard is it to be back in quote unquote regular life, job, family, all that? Has it been like a tough transition?
It's mostly easy, but I came back when the kids had already started school, and so they're at school at home. So there's already this. Sophia, my wife, had already set up a regimen of what they do every day, or how they're what she already knows what classes they're in at each time, and like I just don't know that yet. So I'm kind of picking that up as I go along. And that's probably been the hardest part, getting back.
Just getting on a routine.
Yeah.
You haven't been on a routine except for pedal.
Yeah, just get on, ride. Wake up when I guess you want to get up too late because then the wind started.
It's got to be a hard mental shift, to like go from like, I don't know. I mean, you're not communicating with a partner, and you don't have like, I guess you were still kind of like, you're still working a a bit, but it's a big shift. It's got to be.
Yeah, it'd probably be bigger if we were still in the office, but just
that's true.
Kind of coming back and just working from my house.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
Of course, I work from home all the time. I have 2 self-employed jobs, so that's normal for me. But I guess like most people, it's like, yeah, like working from home is just it is weird. Like you just always go to the same place, so it's just like you're working there, but
I go from the bed to the seat in my room.
Nice. All right, man. Well, anything we didn't cover that you want to get out there?
No, I think that's it. Just go read my Texas Monthly articles if you want to hear more, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. I actually haven't read them yet for the same reason you didn't listen to the podcast, because I wanted to like hear the story fresh from your mouth. So like I followed you on Instagram and like kind of kept up that way, but I didn't read a single article. So now I'm going to have to go back and actually read how the experience was.
It's probably just like Instagram, because the way I would write them is I'd look back at my Instagram posts. I'd think about the photos, then I'd write it off of that.
All right, bud. Well, thank you for coming on, man. Appreciate it. And congratulations on being the first legitimate, verified person to circumnavigate the state of Texas on a bicycle.
Yeah. I told Eric he's going to do it in like 25 days.
Is he planning to do it?
I don't know. But if he did, he's going to crush my time. So who's next?
But you got to be first, though. Who's first?
Yeah. First is something.
All right, bud. Have a good one.
Thanks.
Later. All right. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in today. And thank you to Aaron for coming on the podcast. It was a great chat. And congrats again on your accomplishment. I don't care what anybody says. You were the first. You did the real route. Everybody knows it. Bikes or Death officially approved, for what that's worth. All right. Well, I mentioned at the beginning of the episode how I had an opportunity for content creators or wannabe content creators. I guess I was a wannabe podcaster, and I think it would be unfair to say I'm a wannabe. I guess I do have a podcast now, but I mentioned that I'm rolling out a new website. And as a part of that website, there's going to be a blog component where not only will I be sharing some of my own thoughts via blog, not as much as the podcast, but if I have something I want to share, hey, it's my website, I'll throw it up there. But more importantly, what I'm interested in is finding articles from y'all, videos, art, articles, how-tos, and the topics can be so varied. But I think my niche, I want to stay in that appeal of the 95% of us or whatever it is who can't go to Kyrgyzstan or Europe or, do the Tour Divide and all these epic trips. I think those articles and all that content is wonderful. I love to go through it. But where I think Bikes or Death can fill a niche and where I'm kind of comfortable is in some more content that's more relevant to maybe the wider majority of people who do this kind of stuff or want to do this kind of stuff. So just to give you an idea of some topics that I am interested in, just to get the juices flowing: beginner trip reports, first-time bike packing how-tos, mental health in the outdoors, route planning and building, being an adventurous partner and or parent, bike packing with kids, bike packing without all the newest, lightest, coolest gear, etc. Okay, so those are just a few that I wrote down real quick before I sat down to record this, but hopefully that gives you an idea. I mean, it doesn't need to be the most glorified trip and the most epic video edit. I mean, I do obviously want to have quality and I want it to be good information. Anyway, we can get into the weeds with all the particulars if you fancy yourself interested. But like I said at the beginning, the number of requests I have to share stories greatly outweighs my ability to conduct all those interviews. I mean, I would have to do several a day. I'd have to be like a Joe Rogan making it my full-time job, which is great. It just tells you that there is an infinite number of like potentially amazing, awesome guest humans that are worthy of interviewing. But in an effort to reach a broader audience, to share more stories, I want to offer this component on the website to hopefully serve that purpose and tell some stories that I'm not able to tell on the podcast. Plus, it's all good. Ultimately, I love advocating for cycling. I love advocating for the outdoors, and making Bikes or Death into a resource for beginners, for newbies, for people who are unsure is very appealing to me. So, the other thing I forgot to mention is routes. If you have a route that you want to put out there, let's talk about that too. I've been talking to a couple other people. We've been working on routes just to make it easier for people to access the outdoors. I don't want to take away all the adventure. I think there should definitely be some adventure, but providing a good route, providing some good information articles and some good stoke to the people to get them fired up, get them out there on bikes. I am all about that life. So if you have something that you would like to submit to me, the new website's going to be rolling out in about 2 weeks from now. So yeah, we're looking to get some content up there. If you're not wanting to do it here in the next 2 weeks, this is a crazy time. This is going to be an ongoing thing. So if you hear this a year from now and you have an idea and you want to shoot it to me, please do. Hit me up via email. You can send an email to bikes@bikesorddeath.com and we'll check it out. Thank you so much. All right, everybody. I hope you're doing well. Again, it is an absolute beautiful day here in Texas, 70 degrees, sunny, and I can't think of anything I'd rather be doing than riding my damn bike.
You load up your bike, you ride away from home. You could be with your friends or you could be alone. You ride for a day or maybe more. You just love being in the great outdoors. Everything you need is strapped to your bars, including that new pillow you got from Santa Claus. And then you think, oh shit, to yourself. You left that super lightweight tent on the living room shelf. Bikes